Welcome to episode number 9 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Sarah Senekroce and I'm thrilled that you're spending this time with me today. Today I'm talking with Alen Mayer, a sales expert and founder of sellingforintroverts.com. I'm really looking forward to talking to him as I know that selling is such a key topic and one that many introverts, me included, are struggling with. Alen Mayer, aka the Chief Sales Introvert, is the president and CEO of North American Sales Training Corporation, a global sales training and consulting company. He lives, eats, and breathes sales and combines over 22 years of experience in international sales and business development with a rational, no-nonsense, practical approach to selling. Alen is one of the most influential people in sales today. For his contribution to the sales industry, he was voted number 2 on the list of top 50 most influential people in sales lead management. He was also voted as one of the top 25 sales influencers. He is the published author of 7 sales titles, including Introverts in Business and Selling for Introverts, which was recently translated to German and Italian language. Visit his blog at alenmayer.com that was voted among the top 25 sales blogs in the world. Hi, Alen. How are you today?
Hi, Sarah. I'm great. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much. I had a nice day, already went for a jog, so I'm all energized by the sun that's finally shining. So excited to talk to you today. And as we just exchanged offline, we have some things in common. Like you are originally from Croatia. I'm not from Croatia, but at least it's Europe. And you live in Toronto, where my in-laws are. So we just decided that next time I'm over there, we'll definitely have coffee together. That's great. So, Alen, besides your official bio that I just read in the introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe something that my introverted audience can relate to.
So thank you for having me, Sarah. I've been in sales for over 20 years now. First 10 years in Europe, in Germany, in Croatia, and then I moved to Canada. And my biggest challenge was every time when I was trained on selling skills, it was always, be positive, be hyped, just push it through, be active, be energized. And that's not who I am. And I was always wondering, is it just me or are there also other salespeople who are not buying into this? Mm-hmm. So, and when I started managing the team many years ago, I realized some people are motivated by rah-rah motivation stuff. Some people are not motivated by that. They need more in-depth conversation. They're motivated by different things, and they are usually self-motivated people. And then I started reading more and more and more, and I came upon the book from Sarah Kane about Quiet, the Power of Introverts, and then everything suddenly fits into a great picture. I realized as a sales introvert, I can actually help other introverts to grow their sales, but they are able to stay true to who they are. They don't need to become extroverts. And that's really hard in a North American society.
I was just going to say, how do you see a difference having grown up in Europe and now being over there in Canada, which I still see as a little bit different from the US, but how do you experience it?
Well, great question. I was actually recently in Germany, and I started talking about extroverts, introverts, and they look at me with wonder in their eyes. They couldn't figure it out. Like, why should you be pumped up? Why should you, pretend you are excited about something that you are not? But the culture in US, it's actually extremely, business culture is in love with extroverts. And that's actually historically from 1930s, from all the early books, I'm not going to go into that in depth, but along with the rise of corporations, extroversion has been favored as a way of doing business. And most job posting and resumes and the buzzwords you hear from the both the job seekers, employers' perspectives, it's all about being dynamic, driven, team player. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the flip side of the coin is not there, and it's equally important. You need people who are independent self-starters, self-motivated, persistent people, trustworthy, curious, self-directed, innovative.
So it kind of like it contradicts itself. Is that what you're saying?
It does actually. I interviewed many salespeople. I was on a hiring committee for higher positions, and it's always you need to be a go-getter, the team player, but also you should be able to work alone. Well, what do you want from the person? Do you want them to get results or be the team player, right?
Yeah.
And I see the shift in culture, but it's a really slow shift in North American continent because it's all about, you have to be outgoing, you go to a networking event, you meet everybody, you're friendly, you're always smiling. And introverts, we can fake it, but our batteries are draining extremely fast. So if I go to a networking event, I'm looking for 1 or 2 people to have an intelligent discussion, meaningful conversation, and then take it offline to, meet afterwards. Versus extroverts, and my wife is an extrovert, she can meet 50 different people in 10 minutes, and she knows their names and kids' names and this and that. This drains me. And I hope you understand me.
Oh, yeah, I definitely do. And I've experienced the same thing because, so I grew up in Switzerland and we spent 4 years in California, and it was a great time. But I also realized this push towards being an extrovert, and it was very tiring for me. And I have this theory that I think that all the extroverts left Europe and went to America and built America. And now we have all the introverts back in. No, it's not totally true, but
But it's unfortunately you have to fake it, even if you are a CEO like Bill Gates, Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, Larry Page. There are huge introverts. Eleanor Roosevelt, former first lady, Rosa Parks. From European side, J.K. Rowling, Albert Einstein. These are all wildly successful introverts. But unfortunately, you have to fake it because the culture is still focused on let's do the brainstorming, let's do the teamwork together, and the loudest person wins the conversation. And it's not always the loudest person who has the best ideas, right?
Yeah, because the extroverts drive more on the team, on other people's inputs, and so on. But well, let's talk about a little bit about how you are generating revenue currently and how you make a difference. Because I know you're definitely a sales expert, but recently you also launched this thing that's called Selling for Introverts. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, there is a community for people who are in sales, who are introverts, who don't have good resources to help them stay true to who they are. 3 years ago, I wrote a book. It's a short ebook about selling for introverts. And it gained so much traction, I was shocked. And even on my blog, people were commenting, you're talking directly to me. So it's not just me who has the point of view. That's why I created a community where people can at least get some articles, get some videos, start researching about who they are and how they can stay true to who they are as introverts and focus on their strengths instead of weaknesses and still embrace this and be successful in their day-to-day job. But also it's more also for managers who are leading the team and how to balance introverts and extroverts. And I have a nice expression. It's called enlarging the circle, which means you should invite introverts into your circle and use extroverts to go out to pound the payment, to call 50 people a day, but then use introverts to build a relationship, to ask questions, to understand client situation, and really be a voice of reason in a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. There's such a big difference between an introvert salesperson and an extrovert salesperson, and I think naturally we are attracted to people who are similar as us. I remember on a previous conversation with Ian Brody, he was saying he had to buy a new car, and he was already dreading this moment where he had to go talk to this salesperson, typical car salesman, right? And so they were going from shop to shop, and one of them was more, the typical. One of them was the typical car salesman, really outgoing, and let's go have a drink and and the other guy was more introverted and much more into details. He, shared a lot of knowledge about the car, and so he naturally was more obviously pulled towards the second one, which was more an introvert. So there's clearly a market for both. So I think that's what you're saying. Reuse your strengths, and in this case, the second guy was definitely more building on the relationship rather than being all hyper and outgoing and everything.
Excellent point. If I may add one thing, it's not so important for salespeople who are listening to this interview. It's not so important if you're introvert or extrovert, but it's more important to understand what your client is. And it's easy to uncover this. But if you approach me as an introvert and you try to sell something to me, if you approach me from the position of hype and pumping it up and, being enthusiastic and crazy and this and that, I'll just look at you and say, you know what, forget it. I'll say no. And it's like you are not even coming closer to build some kind of relationship with me. We hate extroverts who are trying to be too friendly too fast. Yeah. And hate, it's actually, unfortunately, hate is such a strong word, but it's really making people mad. Introverts making mad because they're approaching them, and I have to be more like you to do something with you, which is really, why should I do that? If you're selling something to me, you should approach me in a way that it matters to me, not to you. Yeah. And extroverts cannot wrap their mind around that. They should change. They should adapt to the client. And introverts, it's easy for them. If you're an introvert, you learn, in North American market especially, you learn how to fake your extroversion. So if you walk into a client's office and you notice there are extroverts, you'll pretend for the next 20 minutes that you're more extroverted than you are. But it's not meaning that you're selling your soul. It's just approaching your clients the way that they will open up their ears to listen to what you have to say. And if you're an extrovert approaching introverts and you're pushy, loud, obnoxious, you're closing the door before you even open it.
Yeah, very good point. That is true. And you said earlier that slowly it's kind of changing because ever since Susan Cain's book, maybe there's more awareness. Is that what you're seeing on the market?
There is more buzz around it. And I spoke with lots of Canadian companies. And good thing is with Canada, it's more multicultural in terms of influences from different cultures. I'm not talking about religion or race, but more like a huge European influence is there. So you have a more introverted approach, for example, to the conversation. You don't need to be, American sales guy to be successful. Mm-hmm. But in US, it's a little more difficult. I'm talking at the conferences, I'm promoting this topic, and still people look at me, yeah, but how will that help me grow my revenue? Well, it's important that your salespeople understand how to approach people who are different. And there is a study that shows between 1/3 and almost 1/2 of North American population are leaning towards introverts. Yeah. So there's a chance that 1/3 of your clients are introverts. They're faking it to succeed, to become leaders. But still, if you approach it in a way that matters to them, you have more chances than every other salesperson who's, sounding like a template, basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sounding like a template. I like that. All right, let's talk a little bit about your introverted superpowers. So in terms of selling, what would you say is your biggest strength as an introverted entrepreneur?
I can read your mind. I'm certified mind reader.
That's a good one. I like that.
See, that's how extroverts actually listen to you. Introverts would say, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's my superpower is observing little nuances in people's behavior, because I believe people will tell you everything you need to know if you pay attention to. If you pay attention to the patterns they use when they communicate, how they communicate, what are the words they're using. For example, if you're a more visual person, you explain everything in visual terms. So for me to relate with you, it's like switching to another language. If I'm more auditory person or kinesthetic person, then guess what? It's not important who I am. It's important for you. If you're visual, I have to approach in visual terms. So it's like switching from English to French or to German to Italian language. I need to speak the same language with you to be able to pull you into the conversation and then being able to present what I'm presenting. So basically, it's all about listening to people, observing them, how they communicate, what's important to them. Even the sentences, the length of the sentences you have, it's different than I have. So it's all about communicating properly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you really have this sensibility, empathy that maybe extroverts have less, at least with regards to other people. They're just not used as much to listening and feeling. They're more used to, talking and expressing what they want to say. Yeah.
Right.
What about weaknesses or maybe challenges? I mean, what comes with introversion in terms of, sales challenges?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. The biggest challenge, personally, it's for me to be more extroverted in terms of when I communicate with clients who are like that. I'm not excelling in creating relationship fast. Long term, I'll be able to succeed. If you give me a little more time, I'll be able to create a relationship. But, because the first question in my mind, it's always why. And extroverts, they don't have this question in their mind. They're just going through the walls and, being really friendly, really fast, establishing the initial relationship, but there is no depth behind it. And for me, that's the part where I'm struggling still with. But if I have an intelligent conversation with someone, if we have one-on-one conversation that's longer than 10 minutes, then they will understand. As a salesperson, my goal is to first and foremost understand their situation, their wants, their needs, asking a million different questions to understand the situation even more in depth, understanding your values and beliefs, which is crucial because every other salesperson is focusing above the waterline. And introverts, we go like an iceberg example. Everything that's important to people are below the waterline. So people's state of mind, their beliefs and values, their decision-making criteria.
Yeah.
And if you're able to understand, uncover that, so you are on the same side and you'll be able to find the perfect solution for clients.
I guess that's why we don't like small talk. That's why we don't like these networking events, because we always feel like we're just kind of discovering the tip of the iceberg and we really want to go deeper. So we're like, why do I have to exchange, 5 sentences with everybody, not really getting to know them? And then I leave, with a ton of business cards, but I got nothing accomplished. That's always what I think. And an extrovert probably thinks, yay, I talked to 50 people and I have 50 business cards and they're all going to turn into clients.
Exactly. It's maybe not the best thing to say, but for me, they're more like a lab retriever, like enthusiasm and stuff like that. And they're easily satisfied with this kind of stuff, which is fine. I'm not saying one is better than the other. But it's more important that to understand you don't need to change your behavior to be like that. You can still be, who you are. And even if people say you have a poor interpersonal skills or you are a poor communicator, yeah, in your world.
I agree. Yeah. So that might be an extrovert saying that because according to his standards, maybe you are a poor communicator, but in deeper relationships, you're definitely a rich communicator. So
exactly,
it's a lot. There's a lot of misunderstandings, I guess, between extroverts and introverts because clearly, most often we're not talking about the same thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's important not to forget that. What about a big aha moment, Alen, when you had this incredible aha moment and realized, oh my God, I understand it, I get it now.
Mm-hmm. But great question. Have you heard about Tony Robbins, big motivational speaker?
Yes.
Many people in Europe are still not familiar with him, but in North America, everybody knows about Tony Robbins. He's a huge motivational speaker. I attended it was 1 hour presentation in Toronto many years ago, and he's a huge guy. He's like 2 meters 10, I believe, so 7 foot tall at least. And his energy is there, but after 30 seconds on stage, he said, turn to your neighbor and shake his hand. And first for me, it was like, what? Like, I should shake, like, why should I stand up or shake hands? Like, no, stop. I'm not buying it. And then I start observing people. There are other people like that who are not comfortable with, doing this kind of stuff. Extroverts love it because, hey, it's a teamwork and we love it and this and that. So that was aha moment for me understanding I am different. but not just me, but there is a different approach. And then I start digging and learning, and introverts really love to gather knowledge. That's our weakness, because we know so many things and we still like to learn more and more. you know what
it could be a weakness, but it could also be an advantage, right?
It can block us. Yeah, it can be an advantage, but it blocks us from action, because if I know 97 things, I don't need to know 3 more things. I know more than average person. That should be enough. Go out, imperfect action. That's my mantra. I want to be perfect, but I have to stop doing it. And if you see the stack of books on my desk, oh my goodness, it's like I still need to learn more and more. Although I'm writing about sales, I've wrote a few books about sales, but still I'm reading like 2-3 sales books a week to learn more. And it blocks me from action. So aha moment for me was, maybe this is not the only approach to motivation. And by researching, I learned, some people actually motivated by really giving them chance to voice their concerns, or especially in a sales team, they are motivated by having a pat on the back in a one-on-one conversation from their manager, from me. So, it's all about figuring out what ticks people, what's important to your people, to your team, to your clients, to your friends, to your family.
That must have been a great moment of realization. Did you stay the whole presentation, or
it was only 1 hour, so I survived. Okay. But I'm constantly invited to his boot camps, 2-3 day boot camps, which is fine. Great knowledge, great stuff, but it's not for me. I mean, I love to listen to him, but I was driving recently to New York. It's only 6-hour drive, so I put his CD and I was listening to his stuff without touching other people. It was more like a one-on-one conversation with Tony Robbins. And I learned some stuff that I was supposed to learn, right? But still, I'm not doing it as a team exercise. And there are so many myths out there that people are putting towards us, like saying that introverts are shy, we are insecure, we are not good team players, we are antisocial, we are too quiet. And I'm always mad when people ask me, why are you so quiet? And I'm asking them in return, why are you so loud?
That's a good one.
See, if you can offend me, I can offend you. I'm sorry. I'm at the point where I feel offended if somebody asks me why you're so quiet. I'm not quiet. I'm contemplating. I don't have nothing to share. I want to think before I speak. And that's what introverts do. We think before we speak up. So if you ask me about my opinion, give me 30 seconds at least, or a minute or two to find the best possible answers, not the first answer.
Yeah, it's true. But don't you think maybe they don't want to offend you? They just don't understand how you could just sit there quietly and think, while they're in their head they already came up with the solution 20 seconds ago. So again, I think it's just a misunderstanding between the extroverts and introverts.
It is, but just it comes to the point, when you grow older, you become a little more assertive to protect yourself of who you are. And I was always defending myself, and then I realized, why should I defend myself because I'm quiet? No, it's enough. Like, you guys are constantly talking about the TV shows, about such a reality shows, about stuff that's so unimportant in my life, and I cannot stand listening to you any longer. You know what I'm talking about. Companies are like, talking around the water cooler. People are chit-chatting about stuff, and I just cannot believe it. Like, let me do my job. Like, can I be in my corner, just focused on my job and being effective in what I'm doing, versus, schmoozing and talking about stuff that's really shallow for me.
No, I totally understand. And I guess that's one of the reasons why you started your own business, so you can just do your own thing. I know that's one of the reasons why I enjoy just being by myself in my office and choosing the people I want to interact with.
Exactly. And if I have a big call later today, and I don't mind calls with clients, but it's focused, it's exactly on topic, prepared topic. It's not let's meet and talk about whatever, but it's really with the agenda. And I don't mind talking to people. That's what people misunderstand. If we are quiet now, that does not mean that we're not passionate about what we are doing. And if you ask me about this topic, I could talk for hours because I'm passionate about it. So I'm not quiet. I'm not shy. I just don't want to interact with people just for the sake of interaction.
No, I totally get it. I don't think you're shy, Alen. You don't come over as shy.
No, and that's a big mistake that people misunderstand shyness and introvert.
Yeah.
Because Shyness is being afraid of communication with other people. Introverts, we don't mind communication with our friends and family, but we will not start a conversation on the street with 5 different strangers.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's switch gears a bit and talk about some resources. I call them the 3 golden nuggets. So, like personal habits. The first one is a personal habit that you think contributed to your success. What do you do on a regular basis?
Oh my goodness, I read a lot. That's because introverts are generally highly analytical. So for us, we love to go through the mountains of data very quickly. And we like to get to the heart of the matter, see the situation from different perspectives, and consider the implications of different approaches before we spring into action. Yeah. So we measure our words and our education, our understanding of a client situation, industry. If you talk about, starting your own business, seeing all the possible challenges before you begin. So you are prepared, and when you start going out, when you start acting, not reacting, then how to be successful.
All right, so why don't you share, because the other nugget is which book would you recommend? So why don't you share one or several of the books that you highly recommend?
Susan Cain, The Power of Quiet. That should be #1 book for everybody. Not because it's a bestseller, but it's really great book in terms of understanding who you are and understanding the difference between introversion and extroversion, understanding that you can be who you are, whoever you are, but build on top of your strength. That's the book I totally recommend to everyone.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think that kind of started that whole buzz about introversion, right? At least in the US, because as I said, for me, it was never such a big, topic. I was just the way I was, and it wasn't like, oh my God, I finally realized who I am just after reading Susan Cain's book. It just, that's how I was. And it's actually interesting. When we lived in the US, my son, who's also an introvert, he was small back then, 6 years old. And I don't remember if I told this story on another episode before, but I'm just going to make it really short. So he was in kindergarten, and the kindergarten teacher, or the founder of this kind of kindergarten, was a psychologist. And one day she kind of took me apart and said, I think your son is going to need some counseling because he's never going to be a leader. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's 7 years old. Yes, he's probably more quiet and not as sporty as others, but he's fine. He doesn't need counseling. So it was an interesting experience. Yeah.
It's unfortunately it's like that. And I started selling 22, 23 years ago, and my first thing I did with my potential clients, I asked a million different questions. And then my manager came to me saying, no, you should pitch your product. You should just pump it up and do the way that I'm telling you. So no, I don't understand why they need this kind of product. So I was being an introvert before introverts or the buzzword, right?
Exactly.
So, but we do that. We ask million questions because we understand. The first question in our mind is why? Why should I do this? Why should my clients buy this from me if I don't have a perfect product for them? It's like being responsible in what we are doing and trying really to match the fix with the need, right?
Yeah. Wow. So, that was just a big aha moment for me. It's like, why do I always I almost always feel bad to, if I don't see a perfect fit, I'd rather tell the client, I don't think, it's a perfect fit. And probably an extrovert would just kind of try to, make it fit.
Yeah. And because we want to build a relationship, we understand that it's much harder to find new clients than work with existing ones. So once we satisfy the first deal is closed, we satisfy our client, they'll come back to us because they can trust us. They know they can trust us. We give them a solution that really helps them. Yeah. So we keep our clients for I still can actually call one of my first clients 20 years later. I can call them, we can go for a coffee, and I'll be able to even help them somehow because there is a trust that's always there.
That's true. Yeah, it's for us, it's all about long term. That's how we invest our energy in the long term. Yeah. What about an internet resource? Do you use some tool or add-on that makes you more efficient in terms of selling or just anything online?
That's a extremely good question. There's so many tools, and I can recommend dozens of them. But I want to ask the listeners to ask themselves: is this tool help you become more efficient and more focused in what you're doing? Because I attended the conference recently, there were so many applications for Salesforce. You can do this faster, that faster. But ultimately, will this help you create a better relationship with your client, or just speed up the input of the data in a big database? So see the big picture. There's so many apps, so many technological advances, but they're all wasting. They could waste your time if you're not focused on what's really important to you. And I would suggest, instead of looking for the perfect app, look for the way how to educate yourself on how to uncover people's beliefs, their values, how to communicate better with people, how to understand what's important to them, because ultimately we forgot in 21st century how to speak with other person. So sorry if I cannot give you any link or anything.
That's fine. I like that. So your tip here is to go back to basics and learn how to communicate.
Yes.
And not necessarily, that's not just for introverts, that's for everybody, because introverts need to be able to communicate with introverts and extroverts also need to maybe learn just a little bit more about communicating with introverts as well. Yeah.
And it's unfortunately, we hide behind our cell phones, we hide behind our iPads. And for introverts these days, it's easy to hide. We put headphones on our ears and we can walk through the world without, starting a chit chat with people. That's fine. But in the business world, it's unfortunately it become, more webinars, more technological stuff, and really not creating initial interest in what people are doing and really creating a conversation with people. So I'm talking about engaging in dialogue, not in one-way conversation.
Yeah, not like posting stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn and all that. That's not really communicating, right?
No, it's yelling into the wind. I mean, I'm on Twitter. I have, I believe, 23,000 followers. Sometimes still I feel like I'm yelling into the wind.
Yeah. So, well, you cannot possibly communicate with the 23,000 people, I guess, one-on-one, but yeah.
I mean, you have to be on social media. You know that the importance of, running your business. You have a great LinkedIn profile, and I know you're a LinkedIn expert. So you know why you need to do certain things. But I hate when people try to communicate with me only via email and not trying to take this offline from the Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter and have a conversation, one-on-one conversation, to see how we can help each other.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. Thanks, Alen, for that. We kind of come to an end, and I like to always ask before we go our separate ways again, what are you grateful for this week or today?
I'm extremely grateful that I'm running my own business, so I have my own schedule. And sometimes I work mornings, sometimes evenings, sometimes nights, depending on my schedule, depends on the business. But I'm grateful that I can stay in the morning with I have 2-year-old twins, boy and a girl. And in the morning, I'm there. We have a breakfast together. We spend time together. And then I go and do my job, what I need to do. But afterwards, and I can spend as much time as I want with my babies. I'm grateful because I believe family is all that is there. That's the most important thing. People who are, personally, I mean, it's my opinion, people who are seeing work more important than family, they lose a big chunk of personality, and they're losing the most important things in life.
Yeah, amen to that. I totally agree. Kids grow up so fast. Yours are 2 years old. Mine turns 13 this summer, and I'm totally grateful that I started this business in 2008. And I always said my business grows at the same time as my kids grow, and that's what I did. And yeah, it's nice to remind ourselves of that, right? That family and health always comes first.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Alen. This was a great conversation. Lots of, really precise advice that you shared with us in terms of selling and how to communicate better as introverts, but also as extroverts. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me. And it's all about embracing your strengths. And I believe if everybody's focusing just on their strengths, the world will be a much better place. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Alen. It was a pleasure. Thank you. You can find Alen on his website at alenmayer.com or on Facebook, facebook.com/selling for introverts. Next time, I'm talking to Jana Bacholet, an online business owner based like me here in Switzerland. That's it for this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Please come and download the 3 Golden Nuggets cheat sheet that Alen shared with us today at sarahsonacroce.com/episode 9. And if you don't have it yet, get your free 4-step guide on how to say no to grow. If you like this episode, please subscribe to this show on iTunes or Stitcher and tell your introverted friends about it. And I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. I know it seems long, but time flies and pre-excitement is half the experience. Talk to you soon.